Hello and good evening to you, listeners and viewers of this week in interview and TDN audience at large. It's a pleasure to be with you this Wednesday night, the 10th of December 2025, for another episode of this week in interview. With your host and guide, Anthony Drago. Very special good night to you if you come back every Wednesday to share this hour and a half sometimes on this weekend interview, talking about contemporary topics that are important to us. And we do it from a different perspective. I like to say that what we do on this weekend interview is not what you would find if you just click your mouse or your remote control. We try to be different. Our aim is to have a group of very informed and well educated persons on this weekend interview. And we handle areas of economics, areas of of health, politics, social, all of those things. And so, welcome to you. If tonight is the first time that you listening to us on this weekend interview, I want to tell you welcome as well. And it's a great pleasure to have you tonight. Although the topic that we are discussing tonight is very, very somber. We are talking about Dominica, which has been had the title. It's not a nickname; it's a title of the nature island of the Caribbean. And for those of us who grew up in Dominica, we know that meant that we basically was immersed. If you were in Dominica, you were immersed in nature, between our water, our air, the richness and naturalness of our soil. So the food that we eat, even the livestock that we manage to grow and raise, tastes different. And because of that, our folks, it filtered down to our folks, our habits, our traditions. And as if you are also a part of Dominica, you can see that in the last several years, the the same amount of reverence that we've had for Dominica seem to be deteriorating. As a matter of fact, uh, Dominica, um, your anthem says that we are the Isle of Beauty and we have gifts beyond compare. And of course, our coat of arms says, Après bon Dieu sur la terre, after God is the earth. So many people say the number one most important thing to them is their God. And our coat of arms of Dominica says right after that follows the earth. And earth in itself representing all the factors of nature. And we've watched a number of activities happen that seem to defy that. Like Dominica no longer believes that after God is the earth. We see the initiation of a project that we're told is an international airport being built, and the plans, the detailed plans are not privy to the public. It has impact on rivers, on catchment areas. I mean, basically obliterated an entire village of Wesley has been obliterated. We've had burial grounds desecrated. We've seen so many of our rivers contaminated, and by extension, because our rivers flow into our seas, a lot of our bays and our coral reefs and all of those things are being threatened. Well, in the last few weeks, we've seen a lot of activity, excavation activity happening at the area in the interior of Dominica called Desbranches. Those of you who are not Dominican, Desbranches means two branches. It's an area high up in our mountains, in our forest reserves, where two of our major rivers branch off, and so therefore they call it two branches. And there are a lot of communities, including our indigenous people, who depend on those rivers for their life, and many of them for their livelihoods. And so we saw that there was some encroachment into the forest in that area right on the riverbanks. That's really releasing a lot of silt and a lot of contamination into the river. And we've been told that it is to get rocks and that they can crush or do whatever for the airport project. And everyone is asking, how comes nobody was consulted? Not even the communities that are being directly affected were consulted ahead of time to really understand what was happening and to get agreement, because the rivers and our nature belong to all of us. It doesn't belong to the government. And so tonight, that's the topic of our discussion. I have two guests tonight, Mr. Alex Laron and Mr. Kent Ogis. Uh, our renowned jurist, Dr. Andre, was also carded to be with us tonight, but earlier this evening he sent his apologies. He has an emergency that precludes him from being able to be with us tonight. And so we apologize on behalf of Dr. Andre, but I'm sure that Alex and Mr. Olgis will help us to really unpack a lot of the the impact that activity in the Debush area that's affecting the Pegua River, that uh, how what impact is having on the community, but more importantly, how can the community get their voices heard, and if they have strong objections, to let the authorities understand how that project is affecting their lives and their livelihoods, and how we can go about ensuring that they are heard. So let me welcome Mr. Alex Laron and Elder. I'm going to call him Elder Kent Okis. He's an elder of our indigenous Kalinago people. And I'm going to go to him first. Mr. Ogis, it's an honor to have you on the program with me. I'm from Castle Bruce, so we're next door neighbors. I grew up making cassava and planting potatoes and getting input on some of those techniques from the Kalinago people at the time. A lot of intermingling between Casares people and the Kalinago people, um, both in terms of culture, but also in terms of economics. They would come to Casares to do some grocery shopping. We would go to the Kalinago territory to get some agricultural produce and those kind of things. So I grew up right next door to the Kalinago territory with a lot of great respect for the way they handle themselves and the way they carry on their traditions. But unfortunately, I'm also aware of how much the Kalinago people are disregarded on very important matters. And as I said, growing up next door to them, this is something that has always concerned me in the way that we, as a Dominican on a whole, and most of us are guilty of that, the way we don't give enough reverence to our indigenous people. So, Mr. Ogis, I welcome you to this weekend interview. It's a real pleasure to have you on with us tonight.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I introduced you as an elder of the Kalinago people. I hope you don't mind that title. I think it's a title that's well earned. And so the purpose that I decided that you would be a good um, member of the panel tonight for us to have this conversation is because this activity that's going on in the river is directly affecting your people, um, the Kalinago people, but also the Kalinago people are thought of as the keepers of our nature. And even this year at World Rivers Day, we had a big ceremony that where they handed over the keys to the Kalinago chief, Mrs. Sanford, and it for in case people did not know. Now they know that the Kalinago people has the responsibility for protecting our rivers. And so, Mr. August, again, I tell you, welcome. Let me jump to welcome Alex, and then I'm going to come back to you so you can give us your perspective on what's happening at Pigwa. Alex, welcome to you.
Thank you.
I see that you, in your intro, you said that you grew up not in the Kalinago territory, but neighbors, well, part of, because Concord and Atkinson, I always, I mean, I was probably in high school when I knew that Atkinson was not part of Kalinago territory. So for all intents and purposes, you're part of the community. So welcome to this weekend interview. It's great to have you.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. Yes, I as we're on that point, there's actually a bit of a distinction because my family hails from the village of Atkinson, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But Atkinson is actually right on the border of Bataka, which is the actual
Right.
boundary of the Kalinago territory. But we tend to get lumped in, and we are all intermingled, and we are all one people anyway. So yes, it doesn't really matter. And as you know, this topic and this issue, it regards, yes, we are one. We're one family and one force.
Yeah, so it's great to have you. I'm going to jump back to Elder Ogis and ask him for his perspective on the activity that's been happening in Debosh, impact on the river, and of course the impact that is being felt by the Kalinago people. Mr. Ogis, oh, he stepped away for a minute. So Mr.
Yes,
Ogis,
yes, no,
tell
I'm
us.
there.
You there? Okay, all right. So tell us
Yes, I'm there.
about what's going on. Give us your perspective of your people.
Um, well, first of all, when I left the grammar school, I did a I attended the technical wing of the grammar school,
Mm-hmm.
and the first job I got was actually working in the Debosh area. There was
Mm-hmm.
this idea of drilling. Oh, I guess they were trying to find out what was the possibility of what they could get under in the Debosh area. So
Mm-hmm.
my first job actually was to work with that company from Guyana to drill in the area. We would be drilling there. In fact, I did a course at the technical wing in motor engineering, and I was operating or helping to operate a small Volkswagen engine,
Mm-hmm.
and we would move at different locations to drill, and we were looking at the possibility of getting copper. And of course, when I left, I'm out of school and I'm getting a job. I was not environmentally conscious, so to speak. I just wanted a job, and in my mind, I just wanted to work. So we were there drilling, and we drilled different areas, and we would have gone down almost about 1,800 feet to 2,000 feet to
Wow.
get bits of some samples of copper.
Mm-hmm.
That is in the Debosh area, right where we are now talking about. That's where I worked. That was my first job. And of course, I left. After that, I left and I went into teaching. Um, so now that is happening, that this is happening. Well, in 90, I believe it was 93, 94, somewhere around there, 90, I believe so. There was this Australian company based on what they did in the in that interim. You had this Australian company coming to Dominica, and they wanted to do mining. They wanted to do copper mining.
Let me ask you a question
Right?
real quick, Mr. August. Sorry for the interruption. When you say that
Yes.
you were doing the exploration for the guy in his company, what year was that?
That was in the 70s. I don't remember what year it was directly,
Okay.
but that was in the 70s.
In the
Yeah, in
70s.
the 70s.
Okay. Okay.
In the
Okay.
70s, yeah. Maybe 74, 73, 75, somewhere around there.
Somewhere in the
Yeah?
mid 70s, right? And then you're
Yeah, in
saying
the
that
70s.
fast forward in 96, I think, somewhere around there, 94, 96,
Yeah,
PHP, an Australian mining company, came to Dominica to explore for copper.
right,
Go ahead.
right.
Go ahead. Uh-huh.
So during that time now at that time, I belonged to I used to be part of the Dominica Conservation Association as well.
Hmm.
And so we stood up against it. We said, no, based on the area, based on the what was going to happen. I mean, the territory was right next door, and the location of where they were thinking of exploring. We thought it was going to have an effect on us. So we stood up and based. due to the fact that I was member of the conservation, then conservation association stood up as well, along
Mhm.
with Afimata in those days as president, and we stood up against the whole thing, and just to say something which is not political, because in Dominica today, once you talk, you're against development, and once you talk, you're against government.
Mhm.
In that year, I think the United Workers' Party was in office, and they were the ones at the time either supporting or encouraging the company to come
Right.
to Dominica to drill for copper. Okay, so and at that time I supported the United Workers' Party,
Right.
and so but it wasn't a political thing. It wasn't about my party business. He said no, we are not putting party in that. We are saying look, it is not good, and we are standing against it. And that was the bottom line. That's the position I took in those days. So it was it was it died. It was a kind of it was a sticky situation there, because here I was supporting a party that was in government, and the same government is going to do copper mining, and then I stood up against them. I said no,
Right.
no, no,
Right.
we don't mix biscuit with bread. No, biscuit is biscuit, bread is bread. We don't mix that up. You're going to affect an area where the lives of hundreds of indigenous people are going to be affected. So we stood up against it. And the, the reason we stood up against it is because we understood that to get down to the real material itself, if you are drilling and we are getting samples at 1800 feet, we are getting
Mhm.
samples, and these samples, they are mixed with soft rocks and clay, etc., etc. So to get the real thing, you probably would have to go down to 2,500 feet. So you
Wow.
say, well, it doesn't make sense, because if you're going to do mining and you have to go down to 2,000 feet, it means that you're going to drill, you're going to expose the area. Because what they were thinking of doing is using a system. I think I don't remember the right name now, but it was going to be so dangerous that it would have exposed the area to even below sea level. So after we got our facts together, we said no, we're not going to stand up for that. No. So we had a big campaign on it, and we went around. Conservation Association leading the fight in those days. We went around. We had meetings in the territory as it affected us, and so we finally we were successful in stopping it. In fact, the Carib chief at the time, that was Hilary Frederick, he was taken to Australia to show him what they were doing in Australia, to say, look, that's what we do in Australia. We open a mine, and then, a mine, when he came back, he told us, look, one mine in Australia is probably the size of the territory.
Yeah.
And then they would exploit it and refill it, and maybe put a, a stadium or sports field, or even a town over it. So that's the way we do it. We would make in other words, technically what we are saying is you would make a big hole in the soil, take out the material, and then refill it back, and then there will be no trace of nothing happened anyway. That's what they were saying. So they took him up there, spent some time, came back, and he explained to us what that was going to happen. And through that we said, well, it doesn't make sense. So so we stood up against it, and we were able to stop the program. That was in the 90s. Yeah. So
Right.
so that's so today we are having another scenario, and this time we are actually going to tackle the Central Forest Reserve. We are going to tackle the main river. This river we are talking about, Demont River, is the biggest river that serves the Carib territory, the Kalinago territory. So if it is affected now, it means that our biggest river, the Carib territory, used to have 26 rivers flowing through it. And because of agriculture, of course, you had deforestation taking place. And so this, we are now down to about 6 rivers. And the Debosh River happens to be the biggest one we have now in the valley. And that is a livelihood for people. People go to fish, they go to bathe. In fact, it is now a big tourism business. There is this company called Hibiscus. And Hibiscus brings people up from Rosa from the cruise ship to do tubing on that same river.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here you have, and Hibiscus employs Kalinagos. Kalinagos are indirectly benefiting from the activities of Hibiscus. So you see, if we have that river now being going to be threatened, yeah, and I personally I saw somebody excavation going on there, and they're going to go all the way back to higher up in that river. That will definitely have an effect on the river. What God knows what is going to happen. Is the river going to dry? Is the river going to be exposed to chemicals that is going to be excavated? When we, and of course, we know scientifically if when you excavate and you are taking out a mineral from the soil, it means there is always a chemical reaction to the atmosphere. So we are saying now that if the excavation takes place to get, well, the story we are now hearing, is to get material for the airport. And I am not saying that we are against an airport. All I'm saying is, are we doing it properly? Are we doing it with the consent of people? Are we doing it together with the communities? And are we explaining to the communities what we are going to do and how we are going to do it? And can we do it properly? That's the point I am making myself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are, as my experience shows me or tells me, if we had to drill 1,800 feet to get samples of copper, and those samples we are getting was soft material, clay, and as I said, soft rock material. Now to get rock, how deep are we going to go to get rock? Are we going to drill? Are we going to go down the same 1,800 feet? Or are we going to go down more than 1,800 feet to get real rock? Because the rock we are now talking about is the type of rock we will have to use, because we are going to get heavy jets landing, and the rock they want is that particular area.
That's one of the things the Prime Minister spoke about, that they were going in there because supposedly the density of rock that comes from that area is more dense or more useful than anywhere else. That's what he claims. I happen to have some knowledge about construction, and I can tell you that that's just bluster, that's just words. So, Mr. August, I get the perspective that this is taking you guys by surprise. Nobody came to the territory. Nobody, no, at least not that you're aware of. Nobody came and said anything. So, Alex, I mean, are you in touch with people in the area, and are they telling you how much of a devastating impact it has on them?
Well, yes. So, I mean, like I said, I am sort of a son of the soil. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in that area. I still, frequent that area. I still frequent the Dewash River / well, everybody knows it as the Concord River. I have family that lives right alongside that river. Everyone listening now probably is familiar with Basse Majo, which is the very popular spot that a lot of the tours stop off at to sort of hang out and enjoy the river, and the massive stones are there and all of that. And I can tell you that if you're familiar with that site, you can sort of close your eyes and sort of imagine or visualize it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm sure when you do that, you visualize this sort of like crystal clear bluish green pool, and the stones and the nice browny grayish stones and whatnot, and that's what you see. But when I was there in Dominica during the Krill Festival period, I went by there because typically when I go to Dominica, and I'm in Dominica 3 to 4 times a year,
Mm-hmm.
so typically when I go, I try to see if I can get a bath, in the river there, and because my aunt lives right across the street, so we just walk across the road, and that there we are. And when I went there this year, I observed this sort of like sedimentary film that started to grow on the rocks
Mm-hmm.
in the
Okay.
river.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are used to soil in the water. We're used to mud in the water whenever there's heavy rains. The rains have to be substantial, typically, for you to get that brownish, water coming down. But what I witnessed when I was in Dominica was that even when there were light rains, it didn't really matter. Light rains, heavy rains, we were getting this sort of either light brownish sort of murkiness all the way up to dark brown. And like I said, now all of the stones in the river now have this film, this that's forming. And um, Gary Ogis and Janelle Brisbane, in their conversation that they had on Q95 on Monday, mentioned that there were samples taken and were tested, and that a lot of what they found was that there was bacterial growth, that bacteria that feeds on iron already beginning to start forming in the water. Okay, and now we also have residents and folks that frequent the river complaining that when they go in the water, they start to itch,
Mm-hmm.
because some people will react to the bacteria and some won't. So, these are concerns that are already showing themselves. And, it's not at this point, we are sort of past the point of trying to mitigate any issues or any consequences from the excavation that's going on at that site. We can actually quantify it. It's there, it's in our face. And we also have to remember that there are people in the Lagley area, especially if folks are familiar with the river, but it's where there's a river crossing that goes across over to the Kalinago territory side of the river, and there's a community there, and there are people in that area that still use that water for their daily use,
For drink, for bathing and
for bathing, for
bathing,
exactly, and for
drink.
cooking. And so and there are other folks down the line, and so these folks are being impacted. And I'm pretty sure that there's no one taking any sorts of samples, water samples or any kind, to sort of make sure that there isn't some sort of dangerous runoff that may be coming from the excavation. The machines that are there are machines operating. Those machines are releasing oil and other pollutants,
Mm-hmm.
and that let me tell you, I don't know if everyone here is sort of, the listeners and the viewers are sort of familiar with this area, but this site is literally a stone's throw from the river. Where this is happening is right on the river. As a matter of fact, there is a ravine that flows down from the work site and and flows directly into the river. And so this map that is up on screen
Mm-hmm.
actually shows the boundaries of the Northern Forest Reserve and Central
Reserve, right?
Forest
Right,
Reserve.
right here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's another map there. Yep, there it is. So that little red dot that's in the middle of the image there is an approximation of the actual site, mining site Debwash currently.
Right here.
And as you
And
can
as you
see,
can see, this is the Kalinago
it
territory right
it,
here.
it is right, correct, adjacent to Kalinago lands, and then you have the border of the Northern Forest Reserve right there. And Gary, uh, again in his remarks on Monday, they were speaking about how they had actually went ahead and sort of did a site survey, and in their site survey, their measurements came back in that, and showing that even the current site as it is now, which is nowhere near the size to which it will eventually grow if this is allowed to continue, is already a matter of feet away from the northern reserve, the northern forest reserve boundary.
Right.
And as we know, the laws of Dominica, and those laws that protect those areas explicitly ban
Hmm.
all and any construction of any kind
It
in Canada.
prohibits that kind of activity in the forest
Correct.
reserve. And
Yes.
You can see it.
and also the whole point is that this thing has a
Drawing to get
direct
it.
impact on people.
So
You know,
Yes.
you cannot find it and get it. No.
this thing has a direct impact on folks. And sorry, I was just muting, trying to mute. Yeah, okay, there we go. All right. So it has a direct impact on the livelihood of people. It has a direct impact on the environment. It has an impact on tourism. And as far as we know, the government has tried to replace the economic activity that we lost from bananas with tourism. And so it has that impact. And it's obvious from talking to Mr. Ogis, talking to different people in the community, that the required community consultation, the required interaction with the community. So at least they would know that this is happening. They would be able to voice their opinion. They'll be able to put their concerns in front of the relevant authorities. That did not happen. And so what we've seen a wide area that has been, you know, just wantonly. Um, Trees have been felled, the soil has been excavated. So, what we want, in addition to identifying the problem, we have to see how are we going to approach a situation where it looks like we have a government that somehow breaks the own laws that they're supposed to enforce, and they break the law against the people of Dominica. They break the law against the environment. I mean, the visual of seeing the water running brown even when there's no rain is bad enough. But then you're saying that some of our professionals have found bacteria in the water that wasn't there before. The, how are we going to continue to do the tourist activity? How are the local people who they depend on the water for bathing, for cooking, and for all of that? How are we going to approach that? How are we going to approach government? And that's what we had to do tonight to talk about. I think this is a good time where we can take a break because I think we've presented the problem. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss how are we going to approach trying to stop the activity until um, more level-headed and people who are more sensitive to the communities get involved. Maybe it will be stopped forever. We don't know, but at least let people come and know that there is a plan. Like you said, to take periodic samples of the water so we know somebody is monitoring that, you know, to do a assessment how many people are being affected, how they're being affected, how are we impacting our forest reserve laws. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back after the break, we're going to be talking about action that we can take and how we can mobilize ourselves to make sure that the concerns of our people are being taken into account seriously by the government of Dominica. Let's take a quick break.
Presented by
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146 for a smile that lights the world.
Looking to promote your business, engage current customers, and reach new people? Well, look no further. From the basic presentation to a fully fledged advertisement, use your video ads to attract customers. At Man's Audiovisual Productions, we do just that. We produce videos for business and event promotions, product demo videos, animated explainer videos, fundraiser ads, and much, much more. Engage your clients and sell online. We customize the video to match your brand design. Guaranteed to play flawless on all devices, including smart TVs. Contact us at telephone number 203-690-4342 or 767-245-6238. Visit our website, mansaudiovisual.com, or email us at derekvideo@gmail.com.
I think since Friday they put a halt to that project there. So tell me, what do you expect? What do you expect coming from this meeting? Do you expect a halt? I mean, just tell me. Talk to me.
I don't expect a halt. They're pretty determined to.
They're determined. What they're looking for, because the rocks are not there, from what I gather.
Yeah, well, the last meeting we were at Margot, the engineer made it pretty clear that they're never going to stop.
They're never going to stop.
They're going to blow the mountain to smithereens and remove all the material that they could get from it. He was pretty clear about that.
That's a direct quote, Matt. He literally said the representative for Montreal management at that meeting told us they are going to blow the mountain to smithereens and harvest every last little piece of stone. He told that to us. And I challenge them to come out and tell us elsewise. That is a direct quote from the representative of the developer when we were talking about, because he said he hopes we celebrate when the river cleans up himself, and we told him we are going to celebrate when the mountain stops coming down. So his response is, sister, that mountain, we are going to blow it to smithereens and harvest every last little piece of stone. So,
and he didn't just say it like a sentence. He said it with like malice in his voice, and he was laughing.
Yeah.
He was laughing, saying that we can't stop him. We can't stop the project. The petition that's out there is not going to do anything. In fact, the petition, I'm looking at the numbers right now, it's 3,845 people have signed that petition.
So that's a little clip. Thanks to the sponsors for keeping us on air. But just that little clip, for those of you who may not be familiar, those are two young professionals in Dominica who were discussing the issue that's going on, where there is some excavation going on in the forest reserve or right next to the forest reserve, which is having an impact on the water supply for various communities, including the Kalinago people. And so a lot of concerned folks have been talking about it and wanting to meet with officials of the company who's carrying out the work, as well as the government. And what you saw there happened on an interview with two of those young professionals talking about it, and they were saying that there was someone at the meeting who was, I guess, responsible for what's going on, or at least given the role to talk to the public. And he was telling them that there is no stopping. As a matter of fact, the plan is to get rid of that mountain. The plan is to get rid of that mountain. Now, when you getting rid of that mountain now, is not only going to affect that, how would you call it? Is that the western side of that mountain? It will affect the eastern side as
Eastern.
well.
Yeah.
The eastern side, right? Um, and that, I mean, then you will have Mont Trapitan, which is a World Heritage Site, will be directly impacted, because if you getting rid of that mountain, is not Dominica is not a place that's wide enough where you have that mountain sitting there by itself, unattached to anything else. It's right in the central northern part of the island. And so when someone is bold enough to be in Dominica, and this is a threat, as far as I'm concerned, this is a threat to Dominica and the people of Dominica. Somebody tells you that they're going to blow up a mountain in your country to smithereens. To me, that's a direct threat.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
Alex, go ahead.
yes, I just wanted to go. I mean, thank you for playing that clip, because I watched and listened to that the program, and let me tell you, as a Dominican and as a Dominican who loves Dominica to the core, um, I consider that to be a threat. As a matter of fact, I considered it to be, and I don't want to use any sort of inflammatory language, but in the true sense of the word, a declaration of war, and not just a declaration of war against the people of Dominica, but against Dominica, the land itself.
Hmm.
and and that is so significant, and I'm glad that I want that clip to go viral. I wish it would, because it really sort of garners the essence of the audacity of an individual to come into our country, all of us, whether we be red or blue or yellow, doesn't matter. All politics aside, for an individual, if you as a Dominican, you hear this and you hear an individual speak of blowing up a mountain to smithereens, and they quoted him. They quoted him, and this is what he said. And we should believe that that they intend to do this.
Because, and you know why we have to believe they can do it? Because they've done it at a different quarry site.
Correct.
They went into Carpo Hill and used dynamites and blew up a lot of that mountain to get rocks from it.
Let
And
me
so they do have the capability to blow up the mountain.
yes, and as you're bringing up Crapo Hall,
Carpo Hall, I
I
mean, yeah.
just before we came on air, I spoke to one of the residents of Crapo Hall, a gentleman that lives in that area, who actually is, who has been pushing back against from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, they've been in Crapo Hall now for several years, and um, I I implore everyone who can to go up there and see what's going on. And essentially, this gentleman has now taken it upon himself to mount a challenge against these stakeholders to stop the operations. And so I know we heard the prime minister say at his last press conference on the site at Debouche that they were moving to Debouche because there were legal frustrations at the site in Cropper Hall. But this gentleman just confirmed for me tonight that there were trucks heading up to Cropper Hall and they were still operating in that area, even though they are in fact facing some legal challenges to come. And so, I'm here to sort of sound the alarm to Dominicans that we are at a point, this is an inflection point in our history. We need to, as Dominicans, put all politics aside, and we have to face our obligation as Dominicans to protect our country, our island, because it is the only piece of rock on this planet that we can call home.
Right?
And we are obligated to speak on the behalf of Mother Nature, the soil, the insects, the ecosystems, the birds, the everything, the water cannot speak. They can't speak. We have to thank Mr. Ogis' generation, Mr. Mate's generation. I thank them with everything that I am, because in the mid to late 90s, I was a little kid, and so if it were not for their efforts, and if we are to imagine that this mining firm was able to go ahead with their plans, I mean, I can't even fathom where
What
that
we'll be looking at
what it
today.
would look like
There's
today, and the
certainly.
impacts on Dominica. And so I also want to point out that the government that was in power in Dominica at the time, they actually should get a lot of credit, because you know what they did? They followed the law. They followed the laws and regulations that are laid out very clearly in our laws in Dominica as it pertains to these matters. They went ahead and did the consultations. They went ahead and did the environmental social impact assessments. And based on that information, they did the science. And based on that information, we were able to determine that this is going to have a significantly negative impact on the environment and the people that rely upon the environment. And so therefore, this cannot be allowed to go forward.
And they
And
accepted
it,
it and stopped it.
and they
But
and they and they stopped and they did the
yeah,
responsible and right thing, and they stopped it. And
and they
this is
stopped.
about this matter really comes down to one thing. It's about right or wrong,
Hmm.
and legality versus illegality. Because I can tell you that the legal case that can be and will be made, speaking about going into sort of like what's the recourse, what do we do,
Hmm.
the challenges that are going to come and are going to be made on behalf of the people of Dominica to stop this operation, this illegal operation. And I can call it that. And the reason I can call it that is because I know for sure, and I am certain, that the necessary and requisite requirements have not been fulfilled per the laws of Dominica. So if an attorney had to go in there and make that case, it really isn't that difficult, because we know for sure that the necessary work and the
Steps
necessary the
were not
necessary
taken. So
exactly.
there's definitely a case to me. Let me go to Mr. Ogis. Mr. Ogis, um,
Mhm.
the
Yes.
Kalinago people are seen as the guardians of our environment, particularly our rivers. Is there is there any movement within the Kalinago people to sort of participate in any sort of pushback against this? And if so, what this is the opportunity to appeal to the wider community inside and outside of Dominica to join with you and your people to really stand up, not just for you, because not just the Kalinago people are affected, but stand up for Dominica. But I think it would just be brilliant if the Kalinago community can play a really central role. And in there, is there any kind of mobilization or any sort of discussion that's taking place in that regard?
Well, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing you mentioned that, because if we look at the history of Dominica, the Kalinagos are the ones who actually stood up to protect Dominica, protect and defend Dominica. We see, we see, history have recorded that the Kalinagos were able to stand up against Europe for 200 years because they wanted to protect their country. Dominica was their land, Dominica was their home, Dominica was their only place they knew, you know. So they stood up against Europe for 200 years. And I believe we have to, that is something we probably don't know, but the Kalinagos are the ones who actually stood up to defend Dominica all the time. So today, if we are now standing again. We're now going to stand up again to defend Dominica again. Because the idea is, if you are going to get rocks in that place, as I said before, you have to go down at least 1,000 feet for you to get good rocks to do what you want to do as it relates to the airport. Now, this little mountain I see when you're passing on the road, you see that little mountain. That's about just the tip of the iceberg. That's about what? Maybe 200 feet. Now, if you're talking about 200 feet, that is already being excavated now, and then you have to go down, let us say, another 500 feet to get real material for that you require to do the project. Then it means that we are going to destroy the island very honestly. Now, we had a meeting sometimes ago, and the same August young man, the young August and the other and his other comrade, they had a meeting up in the consul's office. The chief was there as well, and we brought that up very strongly. We spoke about it, and in fact, I am sure that now the chief is now, or the consul is now organizing and mobilizing. They will be mobilizing people to go to the area, and they were asking, they're now planning a strategy as to how do we approach, because the chief was there herself earlier on. She went in there herself and made a statement. Now, whether she got a response or not, but now we are thinking now, we have to mobilize. She is now thinking of mobilizing the Kalinagos and to discuss it with the authorities, with the people that are now responsible of doing it, and maybe with government, etc. We have to discuss it, and I believe we will see some action taking place soon again, because, as I said, she went there herself. Now she is now thinking that we have to mobilize our forces to discuss the idea, because it is going to affect us. As I told them, I was at a meeting myself, and I told them, look, I fought in 1970. I am now an old man, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And the fight is your own now. Young people, you are the fight. You have to fight now. So I'm hoping that once they want to fight, we will be there. I mean, I am not going to be as strong as I used to be, but I'll be there, and I'll be able to pass my experience, my knowledge, my little bit of history of the area, as far as preserving that particular area. We have to stand up, and I believe the council is now in the process of mobilizing people to go there, as I said, to maybe meet the authorities, whoever is in charge, whoever is doing whatever they're doing, so we can talk about it and see whether we can get a right solution to manage that problem. It is a serious problem. And we are looking at, I mean, look, the hibiscus stores is already going down because people are not coming to do tubing as they used to do before. People are
And
going to bathe.
even the folks that would come to bathe in Basema, Joe, you said it was on all that's gone. But
Exactly, exactly.
yeah. So the thing about it is that what we want to place in front of people right now, and a big part of my audience is in the diaspora, and we know in the last few elections, a lot of folks come from the diaspora and fly to Dominica for a day or two and vote. We don't know who they vote for, but we assume that they vote for the incumbent. I want to put this in front of you and tell you that if you are supporting this government and you're voting for the government, this is what you're voting for. This is what you're voting for. You're voting for those activities that are happening that are destroying the country. You're voting for having people arrogantly talk to our citizens and basically tell them you can say and do what you want. We're going to explode this mountain until there's nothing left. Uh, on the flimsy excuse that they're looking for material for the airport. Dominica has numerous quarries where they mine material for construction to the extent that we export. One of our biggest export commodities right now is aggregate and sand from our quarries. So if we can find aggregate and quarries to export and send to other islands so they can build roads and airports and buildings, how comes we have to destroy and go into our forest reserve to get the same material when we need it for ourselves? Does that make
Exactly,
sense?
exactly.
That that
It does.
that
It
that
does make
makes
no sense.
that makes no sense. And so, folks, if you are supporting the current government in Dominica, understand that this is what you're supporting. You're supporting a government that took on this colossal project that they call an international airport that has resulted in the elimination of a whole village, the village of Wesley, that has impacted all of the waterways in the Woodfordale, Wesley area. It's affecting all of the bays and the coral, some of the best corals that we have in Dominica is in that area. All of that has been impacted. They've gone into Blenheim to get material. That place is now a disaster zone. They've gone to Crapo Hall to get material. That place is a disaster zone. Now they're creating a fourth disaster zone in the Debouche Pegua area. When you support the government that's in, and this people will say you're making it political. It's an environmental issue, but it is an environmental issue because you have a government in power that has no regard for the environment, and that allows foreigners to come in our country and tell us we don't care whether you support it or not. We're going to blow up this mountain to smithereens. That is what you support. And so you either can support this government or you can support Dominica. And so for those of us who support Dominica, we're going to fight, we're going to push back, and we're going to fight. And we will take the route that is there to us because we are convinced that the activities that's happening right now are illegal. So the first step would be to put up a legal opposition that can halt the project, halt it, because this guy's intention is to blow. Once a mountain is blown up, it cannot you cannot go put it back together. It's not like the World Trade Center that was bombed and then they built something else.
Uh,
Jump in, Alex. I see you want to
and
say
yeah,
something.
and yes, Anthony, I agree with you. And I just want to bring to bear that actually the very nature of blowing up the mountain brings in a whole a whole other aspect to this, right? So far what we've seen is that we've seen them displace soil, destroy the trees, etc., just general excavation. But when they begin to blast, okay, they're going to be using explosives,
Yeah, that's
and
what
those
they did. That's what
explosives,
they did at Blenheim and at Capel Hall.
correct, and that's the only way that you're going to be able to dislodge the material. And so therefore the explosives are going to have an impact on the wildlife, on the Cicero parrots, on the other sensitive wildlife that's there. And so this is why again I have to go back to our laws. Our laws require an environmental and social impact assessment before any operation of this kind can be conducted. Okay, if I had if I was a millionaire, billionaire, and I came to Dominica, my family owns land a couple miles down the road from this operation, so it's safe to say the geology is basically the same. And I said, okay, well, they found copper here 30, 40 years ago. I'm going to go dig for copper. And I go ahead and I hire excavators and I come in and I start digging and blowing stuff up and I continue my operations. Well, guess what? I'm going to get a visit from the planning
Physical
authority.
planning. Yeah, yeah,
And you know what? They are going to slap me with all kinds of fines and probably a lawsuit.
and stop you.
Because yes, and why? And they would be well within their rights because I did not follow the law. And that's essentially what this is about. The first battle as it pertains to this situation right here is that we have to fight it in the courts. And I'm here to say that I feel like I can represent the individuals of my generation who truly, truly love Dominica and truly are committed to the protection of Dominica. And I am here to say publicly that my generation, those of us who live and reside in Dominica, those of us who live and reside wherever it may be in the world, we are going to stop at nothing to bring our resources to bear against anyone, any government that thinks that they are going to be able to violate the laws of Dominica, which is a free society, a free democratic society, is what we are supposed to be. And anyone who thinks that they can come in and violate our nature and our people, I really don't care why they're there. Let me say this again, and I think that we should all think about it from that point of view. Why they're there doesn't matter. It doesn't. Okay, people are getting distracted by the why. But I am more focused on the how. How are they there? And the implications of that. There have been laws that have been usurped, and there are public officials in Dominica who are tasked with the number one obligation of protecting that land. They have usurped the laws not once, not twice, not three times, not four times, so many times.
So many times. Too
And
many
so
times.
and now enough is enough. And so here now we find ourselves in a battle. And we are determined to fight this battle. I can tell you that I know for a fact that there are groups that are ready to bring their resources to bear to disallow this situation from continuing in Debwash. Dominicans who are afraid, who are concerned about this, who really feel hopeless, helpless, they don't know what to do about it. I'm here to tell you that it's being dealt with. And it will be dealt with, and the courts will speak. And then if the courts in Dominica don't speak, guess what? We'll go international with it. Because Dominica is a co-signer of several
Signatory to
international
several. Mhm.
treaties, and we can go to the international courts in regards to protection of the environment in Dominica, and that's what we're committed to do.
As we talk about groups in Dominica, we have a few groups, including WAVE.
Yes,
Waitu Kubuli advocates for a viable environment. WAVE is front and center in this fight. And so, folks, if you want to understand how we can mobilize and what we are going to do about it, get in touch with WAVE. Get in touch with the members of WAVE. They have a Facebook. They have they on WhatsApp. WAVE has been holding down this fort for Dominicans for years now. They go on weekly safaris and they record, video record all of these construction and atrocities that's happening in our rivers all over Dominica. I mean, this one is just the one that's on the table and it's especially egregious.
yes,
But this is happening all over Dominica. We see the government just excavate a whole portion of our mangroves at the Cabridge National Park.
yes,
They went to Parliament and shuffled some kind of amendment, and they took most of the national park away. Even the airport itself, it obviously was not planned, because if it was planned properly, they would not be knocking themselves, creating catastrophes all over Dominica, trying to figure out where they're going to get material for this. And if you talk to folks who are um, Okuwa with the geology of Dominica, they will tell you that the location of the airport is the worst location, for the very reason that they're looking for rocks. I mean, I happen to work in construction, and I know that when you're going to get material, before you do that level of excavation, you always have to get samples of the material. Bring the samples to the lab, and the lab performs the test, the abrasion test, the strength test, and the various tests to tell you, yes, that material is suitable or it's not suitable. And obviously that hasn't been done. Because if that was done, we would understand that there are quarries. Because when you submit material for testing, you have to give the source. Somebody has to go to visit the site. You have to bring your samples, and the technicians are there. There's a lab. When I worked in Dominica, there was a lab right adjacent to Public Works. The Public Works was in Pottersville, right opposite the Deepwater Harbor. There was a lab there, a soils lab they called it, but they would do all of the testing that you needed for the various rocks and whatnot you needed for backfill, and they would give you all of your graphs that you need for the levels of compaction that you have to achieve based on what you're trying to build. All of that is or used to exist in Dominica. All of those institutions were in place. And so when you had a project, not only you would do an environmental impact assessment, you would have all of those submissions so that the correct engineers can review them. And right now that we are pushing back against this project, somebody will have a piece of paper that says, hey, we submitted this to the soils lab and they did the test, and this is the result of the test. And we compared it to what we can get at Hillsborough, and you see this one at Hillsborough doesn't meet what we need, but this one needs. Nobody is showing us any of that, and they're just telling us, "Oh, we're in there because that's the only place we can get material for the airport." And I say that if that is the only place in Dominica you can get material for the airport, then you should look to import the material from somebody else instead of trying to get rid of a mountain to do it. Mr. August, I know we've exceeded the hour, but I wanted to come back to you because you revealed something to us that I did not know before. That in the 1970s, there was exploration there to see if um, it was a viable project to mine copper in 1970s. I mean, I was old enough to remember the one in the mid 90s, but when we go back as far as 1970, before we were independent. And I guess they didn't do it at that time because they determined that the cost was too much for the potential revenue. So so how do you feel? I mean, that's a weird question about how do you feel, but I guess all of us are angry. What kind of guidance can you give us based on your experience as to how we
Well,
can go about pushing back on this?
I believe based on the experience in the 70s, what we what I see, I didn't stay with them because I said I left and I went to teach. But what I see happening is if you are drilling, if you are drilling and down to 1800 feet to 2000 feet to get the material, and what we are getting is samples. We are not getting a mass amount of copper. We were getting samples, mixed material with clay and other stuff within the soil. So it's not a matter of you drill 1800 feet or 1500 feet and then you get a chunk of copper or you get a chunk of whatever other
Rock.
material.
Yeah.
You are getting a sample of it in mixture. Now, if you have to get the rails in, you may have to drill about 2,500 feet or maybe 3,000 feet. That is what my experience would show me. So if right now we are going to mine the area, to excavate the area, to get the right material, as I said, the right material might be about 1,000 feet below the ground. And if we are now going to destroy a mountain with the tip of the iceberg, which is just about 200 to 300 feet, it means that we are going to go another 500 feet to get the real material. Now, Alex mentioned something about the birds and so on, and that is true, because right now the birds have left the area and they are now attacking the farmers' crops in the area because we have destroyed their house.
The habitat,
We take away their home from them, and so they are now looking for a new home, and obviously they are destroying the farmers' crop. Already they were doing it, but then they are doing it worse now. You see, so I am saying maybe the way forward now is the government have to stop and let us do a proper feasibility study. Is it viable? Is it the right thing we are doing? And we must stop the carelessness. If we are just doing it because we want the airport to go, that's another story. We have to stop and let us be honest with ourselves. I mean, we are a developing country, a small country in the Caribbean. We are developing and we are still learning our way forward still. We are just 40 years of independence and we need to know better what we are doing. If we are just doing things crazy, 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 how are we going to survive? You know? So I believe we have to stop now. Let us do a proper feasibility study. Let us, as you were saying, we had those labs before. Don't we have those labs again? And if we don't have the labs again in Dominica, can we get the region to give us some assistance with their labs? Can we get some samples over in the other countries to test the area, to test the soil? Can we get the material in another place? And I know the West Coast is better because the West Coast have good
100
material.
quarries. They have 100 quarries existing in Dominica.
So yes, so can we expand on those quarries? Can we get the material from the other quarries instead of destroying the forest and putting the Central Forest Reserve in jeopardy? Or we are just going to do something crazy and at the end of the day we cannot replace it. I mean, it's not that
No.
according to you, we are not going to rebuild another skyscraper. It's destroyed, and we cannot replace it. It's I mean, soil takes 100 years to make 1 inch of soil, and if we are destroying it within 1 hour, we are destroying an inch of soil. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense to me. I think, as I said, I'm not against an airport. I'm not against we are looking for material, but are we doing it properly? Can we do it properly now? Can we stop and listen to the people and let us do it properly so that we can all be happy? Those of us who are against, we will be happy with the government. The government will be happy with us because we have decided to listen to the people and let us do this thing properly and to make the project, the airport project, a good one. Not that we are, as I said, not that we are against it. We are saying let us do it properly. As you rightly said, we should have done a feasibility study long before and know where the best place we can get the material so that we can continue and we can go through for airport project. But
No,
in
no.
all honesty, I'm saying yes.
Mhm. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying we need, as I said, finally, I believe that is what we have to do. Let us listen to the people. And I'm calling and appealing to the government, to the people in charge. Let us listen to the people. Let us see what is happening. Let us understand what is going on. Hear the problems of the people. Hear what is happening to us. And let us come together as Dominican. Otherwise, we will not be able to boast again Isle of Beauty, Isle of Splendor. We are saying mountains and rivers. So what? It means that the national anthem will have no meaning to us again because we are destroying the rivers and we are destroying the birds and them. You see? So I think the way forward we have to sit down and discuss it properly so that we can do this thing properly and that we can live in a country that is our country.
Well said. And I
I'll stop
think
there.
as people, we have to realize that we've given this government too much thread, too much rope, and now they're taking advantage, given each, and they're taking them. And they've gotten accustomed to just doing what they want, and nobody can push back on them hard enough. And
Yeah.
so that is what we have to sort of yank the chain right now, and to let this government understand that they are there to protect us. Let us not carry that red herring. I mean, anybody who has been in Dominica anytime during the last, I don't know, 60, 70 years knows that Dominicans have an attachment to an international airport. It has been this thing we've had carrying with us, giving us an inferiority complex and whatnot. And these people know that. And so they know that if they attach the idea of an international airport to any activity, they're going to get sympathy for it. And they're bright enough to understand that that's what they're doing. They're taking us for fools because it's obvious that that area in Dominica does not have sufficient rock to supply the rocks that they need at the airport. So in our mind, we have to not make that association between the airport and what is going on at Daybush. Because if you look at, I mean, I was in Dominica in February, and when you're driving on the roads in Dominica between Roseau and Melvin Hall, every 2 minutes you're dodging a huge truck full of cement. They transport tons and tons of cement from the Deepwater Harbor in Roseau to the airport site. It's not much different going to Colio or any one of the other quarries on the west coast, right? Taking material there and transporting it to the airport. The suggestion that it's a logistics problem cannot fly because they have the experience of transporting tons and tons of cement from Fokole to the airport. So we have to disengage the airport project. And I see Didi Easter is saying that what is going on there is not an airport. But that's a different story. We have to disengage that discussion from what's going on. What's going on in Daybush is the destruction of an area in Dominica that has been established to be too sensitive for excavation and for mining. They've made two attempts and it's been stopped. Why are we going in now and doing it a third time? And in the first two times, well, I can imagine the first time the company on its own accord. Imagine how what in the 70s we had the common sense to do exploration before we deployed a whole bunch of machinery. We did boreholes, we did
Exactly.
drilling in the
Exactly.
70s. We had the good sense to do that. In the 90s, we jumped the gun a little bit, but when people pushed back, we listened to them. Now, in 2025, the first thing that we're doing is bring heavy equipment and throw along the trees and start to excavate. So, are we going backwards? So, folks,
No, I know.
the takeaway I want you to have from this program is one of them is that if you're supporting this government, this is what you're supporting. If you're supporting the people that are in power right now, you are supporting the fact that there's a group of people in power that's allowing foreigners to come into Dominica and just cut down our mountains, dig up our fall down our trees, dig up our mountains, contaminate our rivers, and when we express concern, they tell us, "Go away. Who are you?" If we feel like we can blow this mountain to smithereens, that is what you're supporting when you say that you're supporting this government. All right. And so, Alex, I'm going to come back to you. I know we talk about pushing back in terms of legal, wanting a legal challenge. And I think you correct me about Mr. August, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't hear me, my phone is going to go down. So if you don't hear me,
Okay.
my phone will be discharged.
Well, if I don't hear you, I
It's,
want
it's,
to
it's,
take the opportunity before you go to tell you I really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us tonight. All right. And your
yes, yes,
perspective was
yes. No,
invaluable because I did not know about this thing that happened in the 70s. And so it puts it
okay.
right in front of us to tell us that we know better. We've had two
Yeah.
wrongs on this already, so we know better. We know better. So
Mhm.
thank you very much, Mr. August. If you still like, we'll keep you closing. But if in case
Yeah,
your
yeah,
phone dies on you, I really
yeah.
appreciate you
Yes,
coming.
yes. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Alex,
still around anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
Alex, there's an urgency in this matter. Because
Yes.
as we speak, the rivers are being contaminated. People are itching when they bathe in the water. We have this arrogance that's disregarding what we say. There's an urgency to this, no?
Yes. And that's just the beginning, Anthony. So I just want I just for perspective, the excavation began in right around July of this year. And I
Mhm.
was in Dominica when it began because I remember driving through that area and seeing that there were excavators on site going into that area. And I have always known that site anyone who knows that area knows that that used to be an agricultural area. There were folks, farmers who farmed that area. I don't know if it's one gentleman or multiple, but that's what it was used for. Dashin, yes, lots of. And so when I saw the excavators there, and then I saw the signs that were posted, and signs were posted in Mandarin. You know, they're in CR5, and they're, you know, the same signs that are located at the airport. I put two and two together, and there you go, that there was some sort of operation going on. And I knew at that point that this was going to actually be a flashpoint in Dominica. This right here was going to be. It could very well be a very, very, very significant inflection point. As someone just said, you know, in Dominica, and because this has to do with the airport, it automatically is always going to sort of set off, you know, the political bells in people's minds, right? And a lot of people that I've spoken to, that's their first sort of like go-to. It's like, I even have people that do not want to actually listen to the facts of the situation, because immediately they say, oh no, that's just politics, and I don't want to get myself involved in politics. And that's the point that we're at in Dominica right now, where, you know, issues come about, very serious matters that affect the country, affect the people, and we can't have a discussion about it, because immediately it gets cast as a political issue, and individuals just close their ears and they close their eyes and they turn their back and they go. But this issue right here, and issues like it, we cannot ignore it. We cannot afford to not discuss it. It is a very urgent matter. Okay, so what do we know? But 6 months in, like you said, there's bacterial growth in the rivers. There's sediment buildup there in the river. We already see reduced economic activity as a result of this, like you said, because hibiscus. There are actually other river tubing businesses. I know I have a very good friend who runs another river tubing business, just like hibiscus. Who they are also affected by it. This is why you must follow the requisite regulations and requirements when you do something like this, when you impact an environment in such a significant way. I mean, this isn't somebody making a garden, guys. This isn't somebody, clearing some land somewhere
and build a house or
making
something.
a buka, and whatnot. And what this is the destruction of an entire mountain side. And according to this gentleman from MMCE, they're going to blow the mountain to smithereens. So that should right there, that should tell you exactly where this is going. I just want to cite something really quickly, and if anyone can go online and they can do this search, and they can get this information. But basically, these here, one of the requirements for certifying an international airport, and I want folks that are all about the airport being built to hear this. Okay, one of the requirements for certifying an international airport within the international bodies that regulate such infrastructure is that you must comply. Hear me now. You must comply with environmental regulations. Okay, this is significant, because what that means is that when it comes time for this airport to be certified, and it must be certified in order for it to operate.
Right.
I will read, and I quote, certifying an international airport requires adherence to the comprehensive national and international environmental regulations, focusing heavily, and I stress that word, heavily, on environmental impact assessment, okay, pollution prevention, and ongoing management systems. So this right here, this issue right here, could be the factor and one of the issues, one of the key factors that could prevent the international airport from gaining recognition from the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Right.
So we need to think about these matters comprehensively. We can't just come into an island, 300 square miles, tiny, tiny, okay, and develop a piece of infrastructure like an international airport, knock down several mountain tops, fill in several water flow areas, and not take into consideration the environmental impact. And as far as I understand, there's no environmental, or approved, I should say, environmental impact and social impact assessment for the international airport. I tell you what, all my Dominicans out there, you should be concerned about that, because it could be that we could build an international airport in Dominica and then not be able to get it certified.
And
And then what?
I mean, and talking about getting certified, you have to submit your documents,
Yes, you do.
and it looks as though the airport is being built without a plan. With all of the adjustments and all of this and all of that, when you have to submit your documents to an inspector that's going to approve an American a flight leaving the United States or Europe or wherever it is, and going to land in that airport, and you have to prove to them that all of the steps were taken to ensure the integrity of your construction. You don't have the documents to do it. It's just like what happened in grammar school. You saw the collapse of the roof
Yes,
in grammar school. I
yes.
mean, it happened before they occupied the building,
Thank
but
God.
who's checking this to make sure that this is done properly? It could easily have happened after school started, and the roof could have collapsed on a classroom of children and teachers.
Yeah.
So that those are the reasons why those laws are in place. Dominica has all of the requisite laws. I don't know if there's a Clean Water Act, but we certainly have laws to protect our forests, to protect our waterways, and all of that. I mean, we see construction happening, and there's no attempt to prevent erosion into the rivers, silting into the rivers, especially in an area of such high rainfall. I've worked on projects where when our defense failed, we had to bring a vacuum truck in to vacuum out whatever silt that infiltrated a little wetland area, because there were some birds that were using that wetland area, and we had heavy rains, and some sediments went in there. We had to hire a big vacuum truck to sit there for a whole week vacuuming out the sediments that went in there. And we look at Dominica, like you said, it's a fragile place, 300 square miles, and we just allow a bulldozer to just come and just dig up, and rainfall, and what end up in the river, they're happy to end up in the river because it's less they have to cut away on a truck. um, and it's just so happening as though it's happening in the 1700s or 1800s, where we didn't have communication means, and we didn't understand what was happening. Dominica is being run, um, I don't know, like you on a plane, and the pilot, I mean, they just pick up anybody on the ground and tell them go fly the plane. That's how they run in the country. And folks, that is what you're supporting. You're supporting the destruction of Dominica. You're supporting the disrespect of the environment. You're supporting the disrespect of our people. You're supporting the making the lives of our indigenous people, as Mr. Ogi said, they survived 400 years of European brutalization and enslavement and so on, and we are now threatening the source, one of the sources of their clean water. And we know where clean water goes, negative health outcomes follow. Our appeal tonight is to everyone to get involved. Don't just take our word for it. Do your own research. If you love Dominica, if you love nature, don't say you did not know what we forgot to mention this. Go do your own research. Look at the photographs for yourselves. See what has happened so far, right? and see the potential of what else can happen and make your voice be heard. And if we, as Mr. Ogi said, if we have a government that refuses to listen to the people, then we need to find leaders that will listen to the people. And we've proven that a couple of times before. So, I you know, we are 90 minutes in. Mr. Ogisa, you're still with us. I'm going to allow you to give closing remarks. Um, but and then Alex, I'll let you as well wrap it up.
Sure.
Mr. August, is his mic muted? Yeah, his mic is muted.
Experience, and I am also willing to continue to help as much as I can to share my knowledge as much as possible. So people are free to talk to me. I am, as I said, I am not against things. All I want to do is I want to see things being done properly. That's all. That's what I'm saying. We have to do things properly. If we don't, we will destroy our country. That's the only thing we have. And I know people like to say you once you're talking against things that is wrong, you don't like your country. You don't like Dominica because you are saying something against it. No, we are saying something is going wrong. We have to talk about it so that we can fix it, we can correct it, and that we will not make the mistakes that we made in the past, and that we are looking in the future as a people that is intelligent enough to protect what we have. So, people, I want to appeal to you. Let us not look at it as a politics. That is not politics. That is that is destroying a country. That is not that nothing to do with politics. That is um, an activity that is destroying our livelihood. That is destroying our environment. That is upsetting our flora and fauna. And I believe it is something that we have to take very, very seriously. In fact, I read something sometimes ago that the British, when they were here maybe 100 years ago, they wrote a document and said that Dominica should not be touched at all. Dominica must be minimally touched. We should not even be building big roads and airports and those things there because the British had studied Dominica. They saw that Dominica was a very fragile country and that they were not destroying. And we are quarreling because when the British were here, they did not do nothing. That is not just true because they saw the country as a very fragile country and that they were handling it in a very, very, very simple way, you know, so that it will be protected and that it will be nice. So, people, I want to appeal to you. Let us look at that as a serious issue. Let us look at it from a positive standpoint, and that we can get together and see the project is done properly. That's what I'm appealing to you for. And so, good night, everyone, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ogis, and of course, our support is there for the Kalinago people as you face this challenge. Um, you know, there's no substitute for water. Water and air, there's two things there's no substitute for, and your so water supply, a major part of it is being threatened. So we stand in solidarity with the Kalinago people. And Alex, I'm watching this lady say that the river is unusable. She said she's a tour guide and can no longer take guests to the Concord River, which is a stop on her North tour. One scheduled for January. Now I have to pick a different river. And so this is not theory, this is not speculation. This is hitting folks hard. There are already so few options in terms of economic activity in the country that the biggest employer is the government, and most of the employees now are NEPs that get bare basic pay to be able to sustain their lives. And the few people who are struggling, it is being um, made really, really tough for them. So
Yeah.
I, we need to do something. We need to not slow down. We need to continue dialoguing, but we need some action. And so, folks, I would say WAVE is there. I don't know. I'm sure there are other organizations. There also can be community groups as well. But Alex, as a person looking at this, I know I want to give you the opportunity to talk about what you did at Cabana, at that beach where they were dumping, and to give people the idea that as citizens we can make a difference and we can see results.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, Cabana was actually a wake up call for me. I think that's where I really truly decided that I was going to put myself on the line to protect Dominica. Um, I'll tell you that really quickly. Cabana Beach. For those that don't know where Cabana Beach is, and a lot of people don't know, Cabana Beach is a beach that's located right after you leave the airport heading into Londonderry, and it's located in that Londonderry River Valley. And the river mouth there is Cabana Beach. It's a black sand beach. It's one of the most beautiful beaches in Dominica, and I would say probably the world. And as a matter of fact, Cabana Beach has been affected by the airport construction as well. There is a secret beach that's attached to Cabana Beach around the cove, and that's actually where the strip begins. And they have since basically piled a bunch of water sea breaks, almost like the ones you see at the Marigot fisheries that the Japanese had installed. They put in breakers there to prevent from the sea from coming in, from undermining, I guess, that area where the strip starts. And I would bet everything that there was no sort of mention of that in any plannings, any environmental social impact assessment, anything like that. But anyway, Cabana Beach is a beach that I grew up on. My father would take myself and my sisters there regularly as children. It's a I have taken my children there. It's beautiful. They love it. The beach is there. The river is there. Fresh water. There's a lovely pool. And you can just swim. It's like a natural swimming pool. Beautiful place. And now they've piled up a bunch of earth there, made a huge sort of cliff mountain that runs into the river, and now there's a lot of soil sediment in the river, so now it's kind of like muddy. They've changed the whole place. But when I came into Cabana, Cabana was being used as a dumping site, and it was actually just incredible to me that people would go on a beach to dump their waste. And I can't really blame the people, because at the end of the day, what are they supposed to do with waste when the authorities are responsible for providing proper waste disposal? And that's not accessible, right? Oftentimes people have to pay to get rid of their waste. So what do? They go to a place where they feel like no one is going to be able to see them and they can get away with it, and they dump it. And that tends to be on beaches. So what I did was, after months of documenting it, I actually had set up cameras on the site. Yes, I have footage of people dumping. They were clandestine cameras. No one knew. It was a very serious thing to me, because I was going to gather evidence if there was no movement. And I did that for months, and I documented it. And then eventually, after trying to go through all the necessary avenues to inform the government and the officials, forestry, all of these folks, no one did anything. I decided to get the help of MO News, and I'm so thankful to her, because she sent out one of her correspondents, and she came out and met me, and we did an interview. And actually, then soon after that, I found out that the group from Wesley, Miss Benjamin and group, an association, they came together. We all came together and did a massive cleanup of the beach. And it was just one of those situations where, I realized that, what, all it takes is one person that's willing to lay it all out there. I had people that would come up to me and say, "Boy, you're not afraid of people coming after you and da 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 and all this stuff." This is how we often operate in Dominica. People are afraid for life and limb. People are afraid to speak out. This is actually one of the major hurdles that we're dealing with this situation in Demoash. What Mr. Ogis didn't mention to you, Anthony, in the conversation he didn't get to, is that there are many people in the Kalinago territory who are displeased and want to speak out about what's going on. But people are afraid of victimization. They are afraid of persecution. There are people right there in Lagley that I'm sure would love to tell the world about how they are not in support of what's happening and how they've been affected. But they're not going to do that because they're living in housing that was funded and that was quote unquote provided by the government, but actually that was, World Bank and other entities. But so this is where we are. Dominica is in a place where it needs people who are unafraid. People who are unafraid to come out and speak up and stand up, like Miss Brisbane and Mr. Ogis and Gary Ogis, the two ecologists, young people that are fighting so hard for this, that said that they are willing to go to jail and put their life on the line. I'm one of those people. Okay, and there are others like me, right? We are not going to allow Dominica to be destroyed. It's not going to happen. Politics or no politics. I can tell you that I am an advocate for non-partisanship. Dominica, if you really sit down, if we all really sit down and think about it, politics has been essentially, in a way, quite negative for Dominica. If you speak to a lot of people who were alive during the when Dominica was being administrated by the British, the Commonwealth, they'll tell you that life was better. And as a matter of fact, in the first sort of prospecting that was going on, that Mr. Ogis talked about in the 70s, we were still under the British, which is probably why things did not progress past that. Let's think about it. Okay, my views on politics are that Dominica has no room for politics. Dominica should be a non-partisan democracy. Partisanship should be made illegal in Dominica at this point because it does not help us. If we were a non-partisan country, there would be no politics involved in this issue right now. We could come together and talk about it as a people and figure out what's going to work for us and what's not going to work for us. And there would be no conflict. All right. But that's for a different discussion. Mm-hmm. I just want to really quickly bring the attention of the conversation to something that happened this week. And the president of Dominica, she went ahead and paid tribute to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption that was ratified in 2003. And I don't know if you heard about that, Anthony.
I haven't, no.
And that happened, I believe, yesterday. There was some activity surrounding that. But the Dominica Integrity Commission put out a statement. Okay, and I want to read two passages from that statement. Quote, speaking about the convention, it reflects the moral and civic duty of all citizens to support justice, honesty, and ethical conduct in public life. Unquote. Quote, the Dominica Integrity Commission reaffirms its commitment to fostering transparency, accountability, and ethical governance in the Commonwealth of Dominica, unquote. And this was.
Is there a name that's signed under that?
Oh well, these are statements by the. Well, I don't know who. This is a statement from the Dominica Integrity Commission.
I know. But I mean.
Yes. So you see, so we are very aware. We're conscious. We're members of this convention. Dominica is a member of this convention, and so if we are going to be members to a convention as such, we need to abide by it, don't we?
Where do we start?
We start with the people. The people of Dominica, like you said earlier, they need to make a decision about what sort of governance they deserve. All right? We are people, all of us, we're just people. But you can see that when you don't have transparency in society, in your governance, accountability,
Yep.
when there's no ethics, we run into these types of situations. We run into these very same problems here that we're dealing with right now. And I believe that the government and the officials and the stakeholders who are involved in this operation in Debwash, they know that if they had gone through the necessary requirements and procedures in order for them to conduct any activities there, they would have been denied. And so therefore, they usurped it. They went ahead and absolutely sidestepped our laws, pushed them aside, and went ahead anyway.
Yeah, that is such an important statement that you make that I'm going to repeat it just for emphasis. Not that I can say it better than you, just for emphasis. That one of the reasons, the main reason why we see this government in so many areas, especially what's going on in Debwash right now, circumventing all of the laws, is because they must know that they don't have uh, a leg to stand on, so to speak, legally. Because the government has all the seats in government in parliament except save for 2 or 3, right?
Yes.
They have control of all the institutions. Why then would they insist on not following the process? Because they know that if they try to follow the process, they will come up short. And so they are aware that what they're doing is illegal. But they go ahead and do it anyway, hoping that they don't get challenged.
Yes. That is exactly it. Because if you listen to the Prime Minister's remarks that he made from that interview on the site, he said that initially the Debwash site was identified as a good site. And subsequently, they identified a site at Cropper Hall. But he said that they understood the sensitive nature of the site.
Yeah.
Okay? They understood the sensitive nature of the site. And so therefore, they decided to focus on the Cropper Hall location. So there is the knowledge of what the impact would be. Okay? And so therein lies the intent. You see the intent there now. There is a premeditation to usurp the law.
Yeah.
Because in a proper, true, free, and just and transparent democracy, knowing that this is a sensitive area, as the Prime Minister of Dominica, what he should actually have advised was that I want this done right. No one will touch this area until I see and the necessary authorities in Dominica see all of the environmental impact and social impact assessments, all of the science associated, everything that's required before we go in. No one will touch this site. That's the type of Prime Minister, the kind of Prime Minister Dominica needs and we deserve.
Yeah, certainly.
We need someone who's going to protect us, protect our island. You heard what Mr. Ogi said. Even the British knew it. I mean, when the colonizers tell you something, sometimes you have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
They said that Dominica needs a minimal amount of impact, a minimal amount of touch. She is so sensitive and so fragile. Her ecosystems, everything up, it's so, our water systems, our forestry, it's all linked. And we're on a tiny speck. I think when we in Dominica, Dominicans tend to feel like as though Dominica is so big, you know? And it's like, it's, the water is just always going to be there, and the soil and the, it's just always going to be there, but it's not promised. We have to take care of it.
Yep.
And this is how we take care of it. This is how we protect it. And people are going to be upset. People are going to push back. People are going to say that we are anti-development, etc., etc., etc. And I am here to tell you that I respect your opinion as a fellow Dominican, but I disagree. And when we do things, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Okay? And what's happening right now in Debouche, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, you have to admit, if you just look at the facts, that that's the wrong way. Okay? I mean, just to disturb the flow of traffic, if you go into the planning laws and the Planning Act of Dominica, Physical Planning Act of 2002, which was the last revision, if you are even intending on disturbing traffic, which they are doing, they are disturbing traffic for several miles from the site of the excavation to where they're actually dumping material on private land. That distance, that gap there is a mess. Anyone who has gone through there is a literal mess. It is a mud pit. You can't drive through there without your vehicle being completely covered in mud. The road that was just recently completed not that long ago has potholes everywhere.
Yeah, at so much discomfort and inconvenience to our people.
Absolutely.
And
let me
they
tell
don't
you,
get to enjoy it for a month.
no, and let me tell you this. So just that disturbance, we're not even talking about what is happening on this side. According to the Physical Planning Act of 2002 of the Commonwealth of Dominica, if your development is going to disturb the flow of traffic, you are obligated by law to hold public consultations, because you need to inform the public of this, of what is pending, that there will be disturbance of the road, etc., etc. Just on that one, issue.
And what arrangements are put in place.
Yes, and I can tell you that no one in Concord, no one in that area ever attended or ever knew of any public consultations prior to any works being commenced in June, July of this year. The consultations didn't happen until after the fact. Everything is happening after the fact.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister again is calling for, an assessment, of the impacts, etc., etc. But it's happening retroactively.
Alex, as I'm listening to you, there's a thought that comes to my mind, that for those people who love the current man in charge of Dominica, if you cannot love him and at the same time believe that he's deliberately destroying certain aspects of Dominica. So maybe his hands are tied. Maybe he made some agreements to get some concessions from some people, and these people now have him, so to speak, by his kahunas. And so he's depending on you to mount an opposition so he can go back to discipline and say, partner, I try, but my people don't accept it.
That's a very interesting premise. Yeah,
because I cannot understand for the life of me why. I know you said you're not so concerned with why, but the how. But and the reasons that are being given are so flimsy that it cannot be that that is what anybody wants to leave as their legacy. as the person who allowed a company to come in and to destroy these parts of our forest reserves and so many rivers and so on and so on. So how can you want that to be your legacy? So we the people have to be able to stand up and to give guidance to the government as to what we will accept and what we will not accept. And we have to, this is where we have to draw the line and say, listen, we really need, for when you're going to do projects, to submit them to planning and follow the system and get planning approval. And
Yeah.
this is the project that we're going to use to let you know how serious we are about that.
And I will say that in directly in line with that, Anthony, that the authors of our constitution, the Constitution of Commonwealth of Dominica, they gave us that power. And in all true democracies, you find that power, and it's called a writ of mandamus. And what that's a legal term, but essentially it is a mechanism that allows a group of Dominicans to compel and to command their government, officials, whoever they may be, those who are obligated to act on behalf of the state, of the people. This mechanism, this is a legal mechanism that exists in Dominica that allows us as the people to compel the government to follow their legal obligations. Okay? So it is another way to get the government to do what they must do for us. So if they're conducting this business in Desbois, assuming that there isn't some sort of injunction that's going to come down, and I believe there will be a stop. And I saw some comments here, and I agree with that sentiment that there must be a stop. That's it. There is no, in my view, and in the view of many of us, there is no condition by which, environmental impact assessment or not, where this mine is going to be allowed to continue in the place that it is right now. Okay? And this writ of mandamus gives us an additional level of leverage because the government has to abide by certain regulations and laws. And this mechanism makes that possible. This situation in Desbois, it's an existential threat to Dominica. There are people who live in Dominica who feel like as though, that doesn't affect me, that doesn't impact me, so why should I care? Well, because if we allow this situation to happen in the Desbois / Concord River Valley, then who's to say it's not going to come to your neighborhood?
Right?
And then when it comes to your neighborhood, who's going to stand up for you? I will tell you that I will stand up for you. I will be willing to lay down myself. And I'm sure that everybody that's involved in this current fight, this current battle, will do the same. Because we see Dominica as one. Not just because I'm from Atkinson and Concord and these places, I care about this. No, I care about everywhere else this might potentially happen. And this is why we have to make a stand right now, right here. That's enough. This is enough. And if the government wants to engage in these sorts of activities, let them do so within the boundaries of the law of the land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then if they can succeed that way, actually, then that's when the science can come in. If an argument needs to be made that to stop a particular development or project. Okay, so in this case right now, we see a project that's going on, we see an activity that's happening, but there's been no authorization, legal authorization per the relevant supervisory bodies within Dominica. There has been no authorization. I think we need to understand this as a people.
Yep.
Are we a country of laws or not? Can I just come down to Dominica and go wherever I want and just go build a mine? No, I can't.
A garden, right?
I can't do that. I can't do that. It doesn't work that way. Okay, I mean, way back in the day, you used to be able to just go and just build a house anywhere, whatever. You can't do that.
No.
Because now, if you don't get title for your home, you can't get Domlec to come hook you up. I mean, it
you
doesn't
get
work that way.
planning permission. You have
Exactly.
all the things you have to get. Yeah.
So what I can so this is what I'm saying is that we have not even met that benchmark for this right now, guys. We are mounting a case along environmental concerns. Yes, we are concerned for the environment, and I had some discussions with some folks earlier today, and one of the points that was made was that, okay, well, we need to have a team. We need to have a team of environmental scientists that are going to be working to make a case. But I would say that first we need to make that legal case.
Mm-hmm.
First we need to first make that legal case, and then if by some miracle they are able, this is able to continue, then we can make an environmental case. But right now, the low-hanging fruit is that this is an illegal operation.
It's illegal. Stop.
Yeah,
right?
That's it.
A crime is being committed. Stop.
It's a crime.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a crime. It is a crime. It is a crime. And there are actually penalties. And again, the laws are there.
Yeah.
I challenge, as a matter of fact, if you go on the Dominica Planning Division's website, all of the planning laws, all the actual act, everything is there. If you go on to the Forestry Division's website, all of our forestry laws are there. I implore my people, educate yourselves on our laws and what can and cannot be done in our country. And once you understand these things, then these types of situations, they start to really, really affect you differently, because you feel like as though you're being violated. I feel like I'm being violated. Every day this operation is happening in Debwash, I feel just like, a little bit of me is going.
Yeah, somebody's just disrespecting you.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And the question you ask, Alex, is, are we a country of laws?
Yeah.
That's the basic question. Are we a country of laws? And if we are a country of laws, those laws apply to everybody.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Yes, they do.
And if that is the answer, then why are some people assuming that they don't have to follow the law?
Exactly. And I find it mind blowing, and I want to pull my hair out.
You already did, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, thank God I don't have any. But it's like when I hear people sort of defending this type of behavior, I cannot fathom it. I just cannot believe how we can think that we are going to succeed as a country, as a nation, if we have a government in place that's, I'm just looking at this from an objective viewpoint, right? We have a government, or we have government officials running our country that feel as though they do not need to follow the laws of the land.
Yeah. And they demonstrated time and time and time and time again. And so that's where we have to leave it. That
I just want to say real quick.
Go ahead.
I forgot to mention this. So and I was going to do this I was going to mention this when you were asking Mr. Ogis about sort of what's happening, what are the Kalinago people planning, what sort of action are they willing to take. So there is a a meeting that's going to be taking place at the Barana Ote complex on Monday, this coming Monday, the 15th at 5 p.m. Um, um, uh, Gary, Mr. Gary Brisbane, sorry, Mr. Gary Ogis and Janelle Brisbane, again, they will be there presenting to the community, taking questions, educating everyone on the situation, briefing the community. I think is really important because a lot of people just don't know what really and truly is happening.
Where is that meeting happening?
That's happening at the Barana Ote complex.
Barana Ote. Where is that?
So that is in Salibia.
Salibia.
Yep. So you guys down there, those of you that are who are in Dominica, you guys, you know where that is. Head up there. I implore everybody here that's listening. Please tell anyone in Dominica that you know that might be interested. Share it. We need to get out the word. The chief is going to be there, and it'll actually be an actual true public meeting about this situation.
When is that? Tell me again.
That is Monday, this coming Monday, the 15th.
Monday. Okay.
At 5 p.m. And I just found out just prior to coming on here, because I had reached out to MO News just to see if we could get her to come out and lend her sort of audience to us.
Mm-hmm.
But she was telling me that there actually is now a press conference that's being planned by the Prime Minister that very same day, all of a sudden. And so so she's going to try to see what she can do to be able to deal with to get to both of
5
them.
p.m. on Monday. TDN might be able to. I'll talk to my people, and we might be able to stream it live.
That would be wonderful, Anthony. I'm trying to get as many folks as I can to do a live stream. And right now, like you said, it's about continuing the dialogue. I want to thank you for having Mr. Ogis on, having myself on, to kind of discuss this. I know we ran on a bit, but it's a very, very important issue that impacts us all. And I just want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone who took the time to kind of hang out with us tonight to listen. And I implore everyone to just stay vigilant on this issue. Help out however you can. Reach out to the various groups in Dominica that are involved in environmental conservancy. There's a new one that has just come online here in the US. Actually, they're called Wild Dominica Conservancy, and they're going to be doing some really good work in Dominica. Especially with the youth, and sort of bringing environmental awareness and consciousness to the youth in Dominica, which is that sector of the population that we really need to target if we are to really make a change in these sorts of issues moving forward. So, I just want to thank everybody, and I want everyone to support, stand with us as we fight the fight.
If we do a flyer for this meeting on Monday, send me a copy. I will.
Yeah, so that's in the works right now. I just talked to the team earlier on, and that is in the works. So a flyer should be coming out, and and there'll be, I'm assuming, some other notices that'll come out on social media. Whether that be videos or whatever. But yes, definitely we'll do that.
That's what TDN is there for. We played a huge role immediately post Hurricane Maria.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we want to be available, to have the resource for folks to come on and to spend time, adequate time to talk about these matters and to flesh them out and to stay with them. So on Monday in Salibia, there will be a public meeting that's taking place to discuss. I'm going to say, to discuss the ongoing activity in Demosh,
yes,
and the community response to it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
And so encourage all your people, if you're in Dominica, to attend. And for those of you who are not in Dominica, as long as we can find somebody to be there to point their camera at what's happening, we can pick up the feed from them and carry it. I don't think, and when we have a Monday night program, I think it's from 8 o'clock, so 8 or 8:30. So we should be free. Well, I'll check with my folks and see what's going on. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. And yes, spread the word, Anthony. I know you have a network down there, so spread the word, leverage your network, and let's try to get as many eyes on this meeting, because this meeting is going to be really amazing.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of information that's going to come out and be disseminated, to the people, and we need this.
We
People need
need
to
it. Yeah. And I
yeah.
imagine Wave might be there, Margot, and
I'm sure. Yes.
and I saw Father Coffee in the audience. He's known as the I call him the River Whisperer. He's for years now. He's been he's been pushing the plight of the rivers and World Rivers
Yes.
Day and Action for Rivers and
Yes.
Water Day and all of that. And
Yes.
Margot is fearless with Afi going around doing the safaris and really keeping some of those things um, in our consciousness, not allowing us, not giving us the luxury of not knowing or looking the other way. You know, I, the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror is us, and this is facing us, and we
Yeah.
need to be able to say that we've done all we can.
Yes.
I saw a post from one of my friends, and she was showing the last time she was in Dominica with her daughter. Her daughter was in the Concord River, just gazing, and she captured that moment
Yeah.
on camera, and she's saying, "What am I going to tell my daughter in 10 years?
Hmm.
Right? What
It
am
could
I
be.
going to
It
tell
could
my
be as
daughter
soon.
in
It
10
could be
years?"
as soon as a year. Could be as
Yeah,
soon as a year.
yeah, yeah. We would like her to be able to tell her daughter, this area has been threatened 3 times, and 3 times the environment has won.
Yes.
That's what we would like her to be able to say.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, guys and ladies and gentlemen, support it. Push back. Don't be afraid to push back, because history will always judge us correctly if we do stuff on principle and what we believe to be correct,
Yeah.
and not on there's no time to vacillate on this, and to or no, there's no as Alex said, there is right and there is wrong, and this is wrong on so many levels that we were even afraid to branch off out of the narrow what's going on in Debwa. She's just wrong on so many
Yeah.
levels, legally, socially, environmentally. Just, I mean, just the fact that, you have people coming to Dominica, they say they're engineers. Did they even get vetted by the Society of Engineers to know that they're actually engineers and they have permission to work? It just smells. The more you look at this thing, it smells from so many angles. But what we know is that Dominica belongs to us, not
And no one
as
else.
ownership, but as guardians and
Yeah.
preservers, so
Yeah.
that it can continue to exist for future generations.
Yes.
And we are not allowed to drop that ball. We're not allowed to drop that ball.
I.
Our forebears, we were enslaved, and they came out of enslavement and were able to hand us this treasure. We cannot drop the ball on that. Go ahead. You're going to say.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, no, I was just going to say that I have two small children. I have, young children, and they have swam in that river, and they love it.
Yeah.
And they've my one has jumped from the rock, and I want the youngest one to do that too. And that is what I intend to will happen.
Yeah.
And there is no way that on my watch, and I know I don't have to do it alone, But if I have to do it alone, I will do it alone. I will go there and I will stop that situation from becoming to a point where it jeopardizes or ruins that river, um, for our people.
And that whole ecosystem,
Yeah,
it's just it's just
yeah,
mind blowing. But Alex, I'm going to tell you, thank you so much for
yeah,
for the passion that you display,
yeah.
and for the demonstration of what one person can do, and what so much more we can do if we join forces and join
Yes,
our minds and join our hands. Let's stay engaged.
absolutely.
TDN and this week in interview are resources that are available, and you're welcome on there. So
Thank
thanks,
you.
thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
All
You
right,
too.
yeah,
Yep.
thanks. So,
Okay.
folks, there you have it. Just another wonderful conversation. Not about wonderful things, though. Not about wonderful things. It's a crying shame that we call ourselves Nature Island and we're treating that as if it's a nickname. It's not an actual description of us as a people, because the island is just land. But we, the people, are what makes up Dominicans. And are we really allowing this catastrophe to happen? This project that has spawned so many disasters in Blenheim, in Crapo Hall. It's being used as the cover for destruction in Blenheim. Our roads are being destroyed. Our folks are dying with all of the dust from the transportation. It's just something that is so obviously not thought out and just allowed to just happen. And we cannot, Dominica cannot afford for us to be just careless about it. It's not. And as we said, people that were so brutal to our people, the colonizers recognize the special gem that Dominica is, and we owe it. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our forefathers. We owe it to our future generation to make sure that we are not the ones who are going to go down in history as the one on whose watch we allowed the Eden of the world, the nature island, to just become another desert, to just watch another dry riverbed, another scar with all the trees removed, with all of the species that are being displaced, of both plants, medicinal plants, trees, birds, insects, you name it. All of those things that we are destroying unnecessarily. There are better solutions. There are more efficient solutions. We just have to demonstrate to the world that we are thinking people. And as thinking people, we can come up with elegant and brilliant ideas that do not involve the destruction of our country. So, folks, thank you so much for staying with me. This has been This Week in Interviews. Special people who are celebrating their birthday today. Happy birthday to you. You know yourself. But let's do this again. Stay good, stay healthy for the remainder of the week. Have a great weekend, and we come back next Wednesday for another episode of This Week in Interview with your host and guide Anthony Drago. Thank you to Sam and Ella for helping to put this program together, and for Wave Margot. This program was tonight's program was put together as part of activities that Wave is doing in response to the activities that's happening in Daybush, and we'll continue to be available to provide a platform for that. So good night, folks, and see you next week.